Hi, everybody. Welcome to Know the Therapist. My name is Jennifer and I am a counseling psychologist. I am waiting for our guest who is Marianne. If this is your first time here, welcome. We talk about mental health and specifically we talk to professionals who are doing the work. And that's why we have Marianne today being our guest and telling us a little bit about the kind of work she does and where she does it and why she does it. And that is the discussion we'll be having today. So join us, tell a friend to join the conversation as we wait for Marianne. You can grab a notebook, you can grab something to drink to keep you company as we start the live, and it shall be fantastic. So, as we get started with Marianne, if you have any questions, you can feel free to send them into the comment section of this video, and then Marianne will respond to them as we go on with the live. So feel free to jump in with any questions that you have for us about mental health or about being a professional. So welcome, Marianne, to the live.
Thank you.
I trust that
Thank
you
you
can
for
see and
having
hear
me.
me clearly.
Yes, I can.
Oh, fantastic. So karibu sana. And maybe you can start by telling us how your day has been, considering today is such a wonderful cold Thursday, if that's what I can call it.
I'm glad you're saying it's wonderful because to me it's not. But anyways, I have had a good day. Today actually I didn't start the day so well because bills are piling up and we are worried. I don't know if you saw that meme that people were posting of how salary inaisha tu hivyo. Like before you just use it, it's over. You pay the bills and it's over. So I had like a mini breakdown, but at least I was able to cope with it, and the day has ended up so well and productive.
Pole sana for the mini breakdown. I'm sure there are people who can relate, especially when somebody, when you find the money is not matching the bills. I can imagine
Uh,
the shock.
the math is not mathing.
Yes, I can imagine. Pole sana, but we trust that things will get better in the foreseeable future, and that there's hope. There's always hope as long as we survive.
Yes, yes, amen.
Fantastic. So before we even get started, let me say hi to Matara Obegi who is here and Augustus. Thank you guys for joining us, and for everybody who's in the live, we appreciate you. And we're gonna get started with Marianne's interview now. So maybe Marianne, you can start by telling us now about yourself, about the kind of work you do. I know you're a counseling psychologist, but I'm sure there are people who are not familiar with what being a counseling psychologist is. So maybe you can tell us what kind of
Mhm.
work you do as a counseling psychologist and how long you've been doing it.
Thank you so much. I have realized I have been rude. I didn't ask how your day was. I hope it was okay.
Oh, my day was fantastic. It was really great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So my name is Marianne Warogoro. I am a counseling psychologist and also an award-winning mental health champion. So I like the way you said some people don't really know what we do. So what I do usually is offer therapy services to people.
Marianne, I think I lost you. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if Marianne is lost or if that's me. Augustus and Matara, can you let me know if you can hear me? Seems like Marianne has fallen off the video. Let's give her a second to get back on. So Marianne is trying to log back in. I think she's been disconnected for a second. Let's be a bit patient as we wait for Marianne. As we wait for Marianne, in case you have a question, just let me know and I will respond to it. So that we can see how this goes. I am trying to contact Marianne on WhatsApp to see if she's available. Seems like it's a phone issue. She's not responding. Marianne seems to be back. She's trying to connect. Oh, there she is. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're back.
I disappeared. I was wondering what was happening. I don't know if you got anything I said.
No, you disappeared completely. We didn't have you on the live at all.
Oh no. Oh well, I can begin again. So I
Yes.
was saying my name is Miriam Orogoro. I am a counseling psychologist and also an award-winning mental health champion. So what I do is usually giving therapy services to people who are mentally distressed or people who are trying to improve themselves or work on themselves. I mostly deal with young people because I'm equally young. I would say I have that preference. I do deal with issues to do with trauma. I deal with issues to do with relationships. You find things to do with life transitions, career, and the like. When I talk about being a mental health champion, I also do content creation around mental health in terms of my page. As you maybe people can take a look later, you can see that I talk about various mental health topics. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I also do advocacy in the community as well, in schools, in churches. So that's mostly about me and what I do.
Oh, okay. And that sounds like a lot. How long have you been doing it?
I have been doing this for 4 years. So I left school. I was in Moi University. I left in 2018. I graduated just July 2020, but I started working way before when I finished school. So I have been working in different places from prison to hospitals to rehabilitation centers. And currently, I'm doing my own private practice where I'm about to open my own organization so people can keep in touch with that. I accept private clients.
Okay, that's fantastic. So did you study counseling psychology in school, or what course did you pursue in school, and how did you end up becoming a counselor? What's the journey? What's your story?
Yeah, I actually did counseling psychology. So I always have this story of I didn't know what I was going for. Me, I just chose some random course. So what happened was I wanted to be a medical doctor. You know, zile pressures are wazazi, oh, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer. So I chose doctor and I got a B plus in my Kenya certificate of secondary education. And usually with for med school you have to have like an A unless you want to go the college route. So I was like, I didn't want to because also there was that, that thing for Umenda University, the esteem that we have. And for me, I was one. I think I was the first person to really go to the university. The route, yeah, umeitwa, you have really qualified. So I was really focused on that. I found myself in counseling because I was like, at least I can be able to work in a hospital. And actually, my first attachment was in a hospital, and I loved it. So the first 2 years in counseling in school, I wasn't really particularly passionate about it. I was like, what did I choose? Used to be those science students, pure sciences. I chose physics, chem, bio. I wanted to do things that were really complicated and stuff. And psychology is mostly theories and stories. And I was like, oh my God, what was I choosing? But once I went to my attachment, where I came across young people who had gone through cases of rape, excuse me, going through cases of rape, getting maybe people who have been chased away from school, that really instilled that passion in me, because I was like, actually, when I was younger, I wish someone was there for me the way I am showing up for these people, giving them that safe environment to talk about their issues, guiding them. And actually, I was told once I went back to school in fourth year, I was very vibrant. I was doing presentations. I just wanted to learn. I was following lecturers around to know all the options. So that's where the passion really grew. And then after now is when I started with this whole mental health advocacy thing.
Oh, okay. That's quite interesting, considering now for your case you didn't even want it in the first place. So if
Yeah.
considering that's the background that you started with, how did you eventually um what keeps you doing the work now, even after you've already graduated? I know you've said there's the passion, but people get passionate about things and do them in different capacities. But you chose to prove that passion through being a mental health professional. Why do you do the work?
Actually, like you said, the passion. But then I remember there was this day I was really feeling, is this really the path that I want to be in? And I was remembering and regretting not going to college for the medical school, because I was like, maybe, the way we see doctors are successful and they do great work that is recognized. I was like, I wish I would have gone to that college. But then something in me told me, because I am someone who really values passion. I mean, purpose, living your life purpose. I was like, I would have been treating people, yes, as a doctor, but then seeing the gap that is there in mental health, the stigma around it, the fact that most people are not even aware about it, that is when I realized that yes, I can treat people, but in another way, helping them with their mental wellness. So that's what really drove that passion, really seeing the gap. Because I always say this, when I was younger, I didn't know any psychology. And I remember even in campus, we had psychologists in the school. We never went. I remember the only time I actually went was when we were told we need personal therapy to be therapists. But then even when I went, I didn't feel like I was helped, because alikuwa zile za I don't know, like they expect you to be in a really bad place for you to seek therapy, not just going for the sake of it. So I ended up dropping after 2 sessions. So I always want to create that narrative where people actually now know therapists around, they know where to go for help, and normalizing it, that you don't really have to get to like rock bottom to be able to seek for help. I want to normalize therapy.
Now that you've mentioned this personal therapy, what has
Yeah.
been your experience with personal therapy other than that first experience where you went only for 2 sessions, and what has been your experience with mental health challenges, considering you're a mental health professional
Mm.
and we also as human beings have our personal issues? What has been your experience with
Yeah.
those two aspects?
Actually, the funny thing is, I never went for one even after. But then I remember there was this training we went around 2019, thereabout. There was someone who actually recommended to the program. I don't know if people know it, but it's called the Landmark Program, where you find that people are actually taken through an intense 3 day program, and you get to discover yourself, you get to look at your traumas. And that is where kind of my journey with self discovery, self work started, because it really tore me apart. Because I was like, Kumbe, this is what happened to in my childhood. This is what has made me to be who I am right now. And I really needed to work on myself. So I didn't go to therapy until last year, when I was in a really now bad place. The thing is, I am a very resilient person. I am a firstborn. We always have things figured out. But then it came to a time where I felt like, enough is enough, and I don't really have to. So I started going to therapy. I had some struggles with my first therapist. I had to leave her and then went to another who actually I feel like now helped me, because she even helped me to be able to venture out, because I was really frustrated working in an organization, and she helped me discover my capabilities, my talents that could now that really helped me to see I can actually do something in my own space, in my own capabilities. And actually, through my advocacy, I've gotten so many people reaching out, and I actually get a lot of clients reaching out to me from that.
So I'm very curious about how you managed to graduate without having gone for personal therapy, considering it's a requirement in school.
That is public schools for you. Public schools are not as serious about these things. They just tell you this is something you need. And then, I went to more university. I am not shaming it, but I would not recommend public universities. Sometimes we even cheat in exams, truth be told. We have more Kenyans. It's a class of so many people that you would go unnoticed. And something like your personal therapy, it wasn't something that was really insisted on. I only came to learn about it when I was registering now to get my license. That's when I saw it is actually really serious.
Hmm. So,
Hmm.
what is your stand now as somebody who has been a client in therapy, and you're also a therapist now? What is your opinion on therapists getting personal therapy? Where do you stand with that?
Very, 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 very important. The way I'm saying, I am those strong friends. I am those resilient people. Like, I've gone through a lot of childhood trauma, and I actually have been able to help myself through it. But then looking back, I'm like, I didn't really have to go through it alone. And also, you get to points where I don't know. There are so many people who like saying maybe I have anger issues, I struggle with relationships. They know theoretically what to do, but you really don't know where to start. So most of the work that I did was I knew what I need to do to work on myself, but I couldn't really place it. So at least getting a therapist, they give you like a breakdown, or like the process. This is where you start, and then we go to this, and then we go to that. That is how now it becomes helpful. So I would really advocate for people getting help. And also the way you asked about being a therapist and asking for going for therapy, it really helps you to be able to deal with your issues. Because I remember for the longest time before I went, I used to tell my clients things, and I'm like, Marianne, do you really mean what you say? It's like you're telling them do this, and you're not doing it. I remember there was that job I was in. I was telling my friends, I used to cry every morning before going to work. I used to have breakdowns, and then when I'm going to work, I'm like, yes, you need to live your purpose, do this, do this. And then I used to feel so, the imposter syndrome. It's like you're telling them that, but are you doing it? So going for your own personal therapy helps your conscience to actually be clear. And then you're like, you can even tell them, me, I also do that. It helped me get through this and this and this. So it's really helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I keep saying in this channel and everywhere I go, and everybody who cares to listen, that I think No therapist should be practicing not having sat in the client's chair. I think it's the most
Yes.
one of the most important aspects of being a counselor, and I think it's also a very it's like a class on its own. I think it's a master class on its own.
Mm,
You just sit with
mm,
an expert and feel what it is like to be to be to be taken care of by somebody who knows their field, like a great deal.
exactly.
So I think it's a very
Mm,
important. It also teaches you, first of all, what it takes to look for and find a counselor. What that journey
mm,
looks like. It teaches you what it feels like to sit in the client's position. What it feels like for somebody
mm,
outsider to look into your life and dissect it in small
right.
parts. Try to bring some things you've been fighting your entire life into the surface. That takes a
Mm,
lot of courage and a lot of it takes a lot of courage and a lot of openness for you to let somebody in like that. And I think every therapist should get the chance to do that, to be a client,
mm.
so that opportunity to feel what it feels like. So yeah, I really thank
Actually,
you for sharing
just
that.
to add on that,
Yeah,
another thing is when we are taught in school, like I don't know how the system is in like private universities, but for us, we didn't do a lot of practicals. So you end up having a lot of theories, but you don't really know how to put them into place. So at least even when you go to these sessions, you're able to see how one can put these things into practice. So it's not like you're sitting there with a client and you're just thinking about, do I apply Sigmund Freud? Do I apply this theory? You're not as confused. It just flows. So you can't really learn about that without having seen it firsthand. And that comes through that, and also now the supervision that we usually get.
yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Speaking of the theories you learn in class and the things that happen on the ground, what was the most shocking Vituko ground situation for you when you cleared school and you started practicing? What was the biggest shock?
Not really a shocker, but the way we are told at you're not supposed to give solutions to your clients.
Yeah.
So Mimi, I remember there was that day when I was in that hospital. So a child comes, they tell me their story, and then we are told listening skills from there, like and then the problem is they finish their story in like 15 minutes, and you're supposed to have a session for 1 hour. So I was like, sorry, Akuna. So it's like you need to know what to say next. You need to give them insights. You need to drive the conversation. Because I've actually come to meet clients who actually don't talk much. They're like one sentence and that's it, and you need to know what to say. So that is the part that we weren't really told. Like we were told, yes, use empty chairs, drill, use listening skills, use active listening, solar position. They look like such a thing in theory, but in practice, like I don't know if you've also realized, like there are some things that are very Western in terms of the education we get, and sometimes they don't really apply in terms of the African context. So even just knowing, most of these things you get to learn on the go, you learn on the job, and also the realization that you can have people with the same issue, like people who are struggling, let's say, with relationship, but you don't handle it the same. So knowing how to personalize it also has been a process for me.
I agree with you. And actually, what you've just said is something that I keep saying is my biggest criticism of education in the African continent when it comes to
Mm,
psychology. We learn a lot of material, and a lot of the theories that we know are all Western. They are all based
mhm,
on Western model of treatments. And I've even listened to other professionals in the country who speak about the same. They're like, we need to get to a place where we are learning things that are applicable to us. Remember,
mm,
most of the research that is done in the West is going to be done on Western people, and their ways of life are very different from ours. There's, of course, a lot that we
mm,
can borrow from them, considering they are far ahead of us in some aspects, but the
mm,
blind application of Western principles to an African context is a very problematic way of treatment for modern day clinicians.
mm,
in the country. So I always try to encourage beginner therapists or whatnot, and even therapists who have been in the field for long, to try and remember that at the end of the day, not everything that you learn in class is going to apply into the context you're going to be clients. And it's not that mental health and mental illnesses are Western and we didn't have those things in Africa. We just have different language for them, different ways of approaching them, and different ways of dealing with them. And you can't take out the context when you're working with clients, because it is in that context you're seeing that they feel that you're not trying to apply something that you learned in a textbook on their situation, that you actually want to customize treatment for them. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I agree with you completely. During the time that you've been working for 4 years now, and during that time you must have worked with hundreds of clients, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours possibly. What is the biggest lesson your clients have taught you about mental health, about being a therapist, about psychology? What is something that you've learned from your clients that you know you would never have learned without them?
Mostly, I would say it's the way we give mental health a face. You know, sometimes when we think about it, or when you learn on Google, depression looks like this, you don't really think it is something that someone, or you imagine it to be something very big. But the face of depression can look like someone who is smiling with you every single day. It can look very different for different people. So what I'm trying to say is, having met people with these different issues makes you realize that there is no like one size fits all kind of treatment, or kind of the way these things manifest. People are very different, but at the core of it, they are all human. Like, you know, the way people like saying atikila mtu ni mwenda wazimu. I think everybody is mad. It's just the degree that differs. Or like, you know, people like saying these things like mostly people who are sick are even out here. Like, you get to see a lot of people who have these issues and they don't even know it. And you know, they are still human. We still get to interact with them. They are people with emotions, people with families, people with work. So it has really made me know more about how human beings are, and just knowing that mental health is real and you can see it in different people and you wouldn't really be able to tell.
Yeah, that's very true. It looks different on different people, and I keep saying mental illnesses do not have a face. So do not walk around expecting XYZ for them to be to have the mental illness you think they should be having, or they're saying that they have. So just knowing that it does not really have a face. I was very curious about something that you said in a while ago about you being resilient and you having gone through a lot of challenges. Is that something that you are comfortable talking about with the audience?
The childhood trauma.
Yes, and the resilience.
Yes,
How did you build your resilience, and what do you think people in your position or people out there can learn about resilience and building it for themselves?
Actually, when I talk about resilience in that context, I talk about it from an unhealthy perspective, because what I went through was abandonment. So I was abandoned when I was 5 years old by my mother. I never got to know my dad. So, you know, a lot of that comes with abandonment issues and feeling like you're not good enough. And you know, the way this translates now into adulthood is that you still struggle with relationships, with feeling worthy, with even socializing with people. So for me, the way I managed this was to always have walls. Like, I would have walls that you have to really break into to get into me. And this was really working for me at that moment. And I used to be like, oh, you know, I'm just an introvert. You know, I'm not comfortable. I love my own company. You know, things like that that we like saying. But is it really, or are you just afraid of being hurt, or are you just afraid of being abandoned. So when I say I am resilient, it came from points of feeling like nobody is going to be there for me. That is not a good place to come in, because that's why I'm saying resilient in an unhealthy way, because you don't want to feel like you're alone in this world. You don't want to feel like you need to figure things out for yourself, or else you will suffer alone. So what I had to do first of all was to break down those walls first of all, and it was painful. Can tell you, during that landmark forum, me, I cried all through. And the problem is you're left empty, because that is the normal that you are used to. It's like, this is all I was. I knew, and I don't need people. I don't need to talk to people. People are very unsafe. Having to unlearn that really took some time, and then now I had to rebuild once more. The good thing is now I was resilient, meaning I can be able to deal with issues as they come. So right now I am resilient in a healthy way, in that I know how to deal with issues, but also at the same time I allow myself to be vulnerable. I allow people in my space. I remember there was this thing that speaker told us in that seminar, was that, that fear of abandonment, that people are going to leave. He was like, even if they leave, it's okay. That is the fear that we usually have. Wataniona aje, how will they take me? Does that, we tend to internalize it and personalize it as to mean that it is me who is in the wrong, or to mean that I am not worthy. But he was like, if they leave, that's their choice. They have chosen to leave, and that is okay. And me coming into this space with that really was liberating for me, because right now I love connecting with people. I love being in social places, and I'm like, the right people will come. The ones who don't, it's still okay. I like telling my clients, Jesus had only 12 disciples. He had three that he used to walk with, and only one was the disciple who Jesus loved. So how do you expect to be friends with everyone? How do you expect that everybody is going to love you? So that has been my journey, and I can see we have some questions on the same.
Yeah, I was actually going to jump onto those immediately after you're done. Before, there's something that you said that I just want to jump on, and that is that building the walls. People forget that when you build a wall, it not only keeps people outside, but it also keeps you inside, and that is the problem with walls. It's not that they're bad; yes, they do the work that you've created them for, but then at the same time, there's a side of that they also lock you inside, and you lose a lot of connection.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm very sorry for your experience, and I'm glad that you feel that you have healed at this point. So yes, I can see there's some people speaking on the chat. I can see Wiki Wellness is asking, how do you cope with fear of rejection? And I don't know if you want to respond to that before I go, Marianne.
Yeah, I can. Usually, what I try to teach my clients, and also what I have been able to do, is you get to work on validating yourself. Fear of rejection means they will reject me because I am not good enough. They will find, actually, I get so many people who say, I fear that when people know who I am, for me, they will leave. They will not like who I am. So first of all, it's validating yourself, affirming yourself, knowing that you're worthy, so that even if you'll be like, even if they leave, that's okay. It doesn't have anything to do with me. And also, like I said, we are not for everyone. We cannot be loved by everyone. People like saying you're not the ice cream man. I think only the ice cream man is loved by everybody, but you are not that. So it is okay even if people reject you. What I say is, it's not a reflection of who you are, it's a reflection of who they are. And probably whoever you are doesn't really align with them. Just as the same, just because I meet people in the streets doesn't mean I'll be friends with all of them. There's something that will resonate with me that will make me want to know them more. So the same for you. First of all, just working on accepting yourself. Something also we like saying is whenever you feel lonely, or whenever you feel that something is missing, is because you've rejected yourself in the first place. You've looked at yourself with everything that you have and said that this is not okay. I look at myself in the mirror and the first thing I see are the lines. I am getting old, You look at the pimples. You just are constantly putting yourself down. Your negative self talk, you talk to yourself so badly. You see, you've already rejected yourself, so automatically, you're going to feel like other people are going to reject you too, because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So start with loving yourself, working on yourself, knowing you are worthy, knowing your capabilities, your abilities, and affirming yourself with that. And you won't really be mindful of how other people are going to take you, because you already know you have all it takes.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree with you. Wangeshi says that fear of rejection is also a manifestation of childhood trauma, and Wiki says we can stop that negative. How can we stop that? Yeah, how can we stop that negative self-talk? I don't know if you want to respond to that before I respond as well.
Mainly it's being intentional, first of all, being mindful when you're doing it. The negative self-talk is that voice in your head that tells you that you're not good enough, that tells you you're a failure, that tells you nobody can love you. So you need to be mindful to know when it is coming up, and then you start having affirmations for yourself. People really feel cringy about affirmations, and that's because it's not something you're used to. But imagine you constantly speaking down on yourself. That is also an affirmation, but in a negative way. So start rewiring that by reminding yourself, I am beautiful. I have all it takes. I'm not a failure. Maybe just failing that once doesn't make me a failure. So it's just starting to tell yourself positive things about yourself over and over until your mind starts believing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Something I want to add onto the negative self-talk and the fear of rejection. I hope Wiki can hear us. Is that first of all, I am a firm believer that everything we try to call maladaptive behavior in psychology is always something that has served us in the past. So I would be curious, if I was you, Wiki, I would be curious about how does negative self-talk serve me? What does it do for me? Every time that I wake up and start telling myself that, what does that do for me? And so the question then becomes, the pursuit now becomes, how can I convert whatever that, how can I use something positive to get the same effect? So if when I give myself, and when I talk negatively to myself, I get to feel some type of way, which is making me feel good or bad, I don't know. How can I change that negative self-talk and do something different to feel better? Because at the end of the day, whatever you're doing is serving a purpose. Even when you say that people abuse drugs or whatever, those drugs, they don't abuse those drugs because those drugs are delicious, and they don't take them. People don't hurt themselves because they feel nice when they do it. It's because there's something that you get out of it. So the pursuit then becomes, what can I do to get the same effect but something positive? How can I meet my needs in a healthier way instead of meeting my need with a negative thing that is harming me and my mental health? So that is how I would look at it. The other thing I would want to comment on is the fear of rejection. I would be curious about what exactly it is that you're afraid of being rejected from, and where this is coming from. Because at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself if for you regret is bigger than rejection. So which one are you more afraid of? Are you afraid of doing things and failing and maybe getting rejected, or are you afraid of regretting that you never did the things that you wanted to do because you were afraid of being rejected? So I would be curious about which one for you is more scary, a rejection or regret? And then I would now try to rewire that conversation and see how can I make sure that I am always reminding myself that regret is worse than rejection, and I can always go pursue things for the experience of them. And I think that would be important. Also, going back to the thing we call the cognitive triangle in psychology, where we remember that our actions affect the way we feel, and they affect the thoughts that we have, and they all affect each other, the three of them. So I'm curious about if the things that you are doing are supporting the rejection, because remember it is going to be a cycle. If you feel rejected, you're going to start withdrawing, acting in some types of way that make you even more rejected, and it's going to become a cycle. So how can we rewind that cycle into a place where even if I am feeling like I'm gonna get rejected, I'm gonna do something positive that makes me accepted? And also ask yourself, what is the need for acceptance? Why do you need to be accepted by this particular group of people that you want to be accepted to? Why is it important that these people accept you? Is there a reason why this particular person or group of people is that it is so important for you to belong to them, that you fear being rejected by them, and you're willing to trade your own authenticity for their acceptance? So those are some questions I would be battling with. I would be looking at those from those angles, and I would be very, very curious about that. I can see Wiki has said something that for men who don't know how to receive compliments, doing it for yourself becomes weird. I am working on normalizing it though. Very insightful. Thank you for saying that, because again, the whole point of why we have these discussions is so that we can make these things normal conversations. We can bring them to the surface. We don't want them to be discussed in the to be like hidden, a lamp hidden under the bed. We don't want them to be lamps hidden under the bed. We want them to be things out there that people can discuss. And that's why we have mental health conversations. It's not because people don't know how these things. We have mental health conversations so that we can normalize the conversation. We can normalize the stories that we tell ourselves, so that we can see that everything we are battling with, probably somebody else is battling with the same, and they just don't know that other people are battling with it. And the moment we see that other people are there, we feel the solidarity, and we feel that we are not alone, and we make the journey of life less lonelier than ordinarily it is. So thank you very much for speaking about that, Wiki. Wellness. Thank you very much. Marianne, we are coming very close to the end of this conversation, and I am very curious about three things. And one of them is, when we started this conversation, you told us a lot about the kind of works that you do. You deal with people of all walks of life. You said you work a lot with people who are going through life changes, addictions, emotional intelligence, relationships. There's a lot. So at the end of the day, how do you take care of yourself to make sure that you don't burn out? Because we know that burnout is real. It happens to the best of us, whether we want it to or not. So how do you make sure that you don't burn out for yourself? What do you do?
I'm actually a very big advocate for self-care. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Marianne.
Ilikuwa imekwama. Big advocate for self-care, because like I said, I used to have days where I would cry every morning before going to work, and that was because everything I was focused on just so you'd find that you've gone to work for your 8 hours, you're so stressed about the work, and then you go back home and you're still thinking about the same work, that I wouldn't get time to focus on other. Now is to try and balance, have a really good work-life balance. Like I said, I didn't have friends, or I didn't focus on friendships and relationships. Now I do that a lot, where I actually go out more with friends. I love hiking, things to do with adventures, being out with friends, interacting with them, watching movies in their house. That is something that I always like saying, and I am not embarrassed about it. So mainly self-care, taking care of myself and not focusing on work. Something that I like saying, don't just focus your identity on your work. You're not your work only. Many other
Yes, there was a weird background noise that was happening. I couldn't hear you at all. So I have heard you about the self-care and watching movies. What are you currently watching that we can go watch after this live?
I actually haven't watched.
Yes, you're back.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, actually, I haven't watched something. I am not keeping up nowadays, unfortunately, but I love drama and also some action comedy. If you send me
Yeah.
those, I'm sold. And something that I am not embarrassed about is watching animation. Me, I'm not sorry about cartoons. Brings out my inner child.
No judgment here. We are very happy to
Yeah.
have anybody who, yeah, if you have any animation to recommend to Marianne, please recommend it in the comment section of this video. Thank you for sharing that. What do you think that more people need to know about mental health, especially now in this era where we are trying to make mental health awareness a thing? What do you wish more Kenyans knew about mental health?
I'd wish them to know that it is something that is really among us. You know, we like to look at it from ule mtoto wa nani, so and so na huko. Like we always feel like it is something that is, you know, outside of us, but it is something that we are all struggling with. I don't know if people have seen that video. There's a certain video that shows, you know, we say 1 in 4 people actually have mental health issues. So you can imagine if you know like 5 people, one of them has a mental health issue. And you know, we like thinking maybe it has to do with what when you the people that are walking on the streets, uh, maybe wakiokota makaratasi, people who walk naked, and it doesn't look like that. It can be Marianne here is laughing with you, but deep down I am struggling, and maybe I just don't want to say it. So also the other thing I would want to say is people need to check up on each other a lot. Like genuinely, it's not like, hi, how are you? I'm fine. You? I am also fine. Good. You know, those are very surface level. Maybe if you tell me you're fine, I need to know every detail. What is fine about it? What is happening in your life? Like try to cultivate that so that people can feel safe to be able to share what it is that they are really going through. And imagine just listening to them might solve a lot. You don't really need to have solutions.
That's very true. That's very true. Thank you for sharing that. So there are some people right now who might be listening and they don't have access to a therapist or any mental health professional, or they don't have access to any mental health facility near them. And maybe they have access to the internet or some other thing. And maybe this is a good time to give them some resources you think they would benefit from in case they don't have access to a counselor and they want to take care of their mental health. What resources would those be?
Actually, I love the fact that I think it was since COVID times, at least we have had a lot of telehealth, mental health services where we are actually doing mental health, our counseling services online. So that is a good thing. There are actually some places like Befrienders Kenya. We have Red Cross. They have toll-free numbers where someone can call and they can get assistance on the same. And also we have a lot, which is what I watch. We have a lot of YouTube channels that really focus on self-development, self-improvement. I listen to them a lot and they have really been impactful for my life in terms of, even I can see Wiki asking about relationships, and I always have the right YouTube channel to go to for a specific talk. If I want things to do with the relationships, I know. If I want a spiritual one, I know. If I want to do with money and business, I know. So really take advantage of that. But something that I really advocate against
is going to self-diagnose yourself on the internet, because we know so well you could be having a slight homa, but Google will tell you that you have COVID and malaria and HIV and you're going to die in the next 24 hours. So the same way you find people saying, oh, I have bipolar, I have depression, and sometimes it's not the case. So in case of that, please really go to a professional. And another thing is, most of these public hospitals that we have, they always have a free therapist, and these are the people we don't really utilize as we should.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Right now, we have a lot of mental health services that are free. Some of them are very affordable. Okay, I keep saying Kenyatta Hospital has mental health services for under 25s that is very affordable. Same case to Mutari has mental health services. Please do not suffer in silence. There's a lot available. And if you don't know where to start with Googling. Where can I get free services for mental health in Nairobi or in Kenya or in your location? Just start there and you're going to find a bazillion and one resources. So before we end this conversation, I can see there's also the question about how to build depth in relationships. I don't know if you want to respond to that before I respond to the question, Marianne.
Actually, it is something that is very key. I think also from the story that I was sharing. So I used to be someone who didn't really value relationships. I was like, people, what one ideas, feeling like people are bad, things like the way we hear people say that men can embarrass you, women can embarrass you. Like, we always have these negative connotations about other people, but then it starts with undoing that. First of all, looking at, why do you really have those beliefs, and are they really true? And most of the times when we come from points of trauma, we actually go through experiences that validate what we are feeling, and we're like, see, I said people can always leave me, or people can always betray me, and this can really make you not trust people. But what I can say mostly is, first of all, work on yourself, work on valuing yourself, because your best friend should be yourself. You can't be hapa kwa akili, you're telling yourself negative things and expecting other people to love you for you. And then now when it comes to now allowing people in your life, first of all, it's okay to vet them to see, is this really the kind of person that aligns with my values? Is this person someone who can be there for me? A friend in need is a friend indeed. Can they be able to show up for me? And then another thing that we like saying, people connect a lot on vulnerabilities. These surface level things of, like the way I was saying, how are you? Hi, how are you? I'm fine. How about you? I'm fine. And people meeting up maybe to do, like, a lot of people meet up for drinks, just partying. They never really get to talk about what is really happening to them, is what is really affecting us and the relationships we have around us. So it's okay to evaluate your friendships, the people around you. Just know the people that are there for you. And then also, when you already love yourself, it's like a magnet. You get to attract the right people in your life, because the way you treat yourself is the way they will treat you. You're actually showing them how they will treat you. So that is what I would say. And now, once you get the right people, you can be vulnerable, you can be able to share what is going on, you can be able to share your ideas, your fears, and get the right help that you need. Maybe
Yeah, I
you
think
can
that's
add on.
true. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. And I think also, for me, depth goes hand in hand with intimacy. I think depth is intimacy, and the whole thing all revolves around vulnerability. If you cannot let people in, you will never have the kind of relationships you want. And there's actually a video that I did about how you can find emotionally mature people. Remember, you can never have a deep relationship with somebody who is emotionally immature, and you can never have a deep relationship if you are emotionally immature. So I think this question requires, first of all, to find out the levels of emotional maturity in yourself, and the depth and the emotional maturity in the other person that you're trying to have a deep relationship with, because people who are emotionally mature are not afraid of letting people in, because they are also looking for help. So you won't struggle with emotionally mature people to get into deep relationships. That's exactly what they want. So if it's what you want and it's what they want, then it's a match made in heaven. But you will find yourself struggling with that when you're dealing with people who are not emotionally mature, or if you are not emotionally mature. And emotional maturity comes with vulnerability, openness, honesty, having the best interest at heart for the other person, wanting to be in that relationship, working together, realizing that a relationship is not a competition. There's a lot that goes into it that I can discuss in another video, because I have done an entire series on emotional maturity. Please, I will link it in the... Please send me a DM, Wiki, and I will send you that playlist, and you can hear some of the things that I've spoken about, which I think are really, really important, and they will help you develop those deep relationships that you're looking for. So I think that's how I would respond to that. And thank you, Marianne, for responding. So with that said, we have come to the very end of our conversation. But before I let you go, I would really want you to tell our audience where they can find you if they want to look for, if they want to work with you. Maybe they want to work with you as a therapist, or they want you to invite you into their space for you to talk to them and their friends about something, or for whatever reason, they want to get in touch with you. So how can people get in touch with you if they are looking for Marianne? What's the procedure?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your space. And then I think the best place would be here. First of all, the Instagram space. This is where I'm mostly active. So all my social media platforms, I am Therapist Marianne. If you search for Therapist Marianne on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, Facebook, you will always find me there. And also, I have a business number where you can call me. Maybe you will attach it. I am hoping you usually save this video, so maybe we can put it on there.
Actually,
so my number,
actually the video is going to be on YouTube, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be everywhere. So let me write down the number: 07
23 629 885.
885. Okay.
Yes. So they can find me there. I'm actually really active on WhatsApp as well. I have put the number also on my social media, so when they get on there, they can go on the contact, and then they can be able to reach out to me.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I can see Wiki has said that you can go and watch Maya and the Three on Netflix. I think that's animation. So that is your next watch. I hope you enjoy it as much as Wiki seems to be enjoying it and recommending it. So I think that's fantastic. So thank you so much, Marianne, for coming through today, for chilling with me for the last 1 hour. It's been fantastic, and I appreciate your time, and I congratulate you for the kind of work that you're doing, and I wish you nothing but the best in the next coming days and weeks as you continue to build the audience that you're looking to build. And I hope that if you ever need anything from Infinity Wellness Consultants, you can always reach out and we'll give you the assistance that you need. If there's any therapist listening right now who would want to be featured on our show, please send me a DM on Infinity Wellness Consultants. We are IWC Africa everywhere. Everywhere you Google, everywhere you look for us, it's IWC Africa. So if you know a therapist, or you are a therapist who would like to be featured or know the therapist, please reach out to me in the DM, anywhere, send me an email, and I will get back to you, and I will set it up, and we'll have you live on Instagram talking to your people. So thank you, Marianne, and thank you to our audience. Mercy, Wiki, Edu, Imbali Gladwell, Wangeshi, the therapist, and Leginiza, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name well, Nasibo Abdullahi, Masi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Masi, Kuria Wanyakio, Augustus, and Matara. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through and chilling with us for the last 1 hour. Very much appreciated. And stick around or Infinity Wellness page. Next week, we'll be having somebody else who will be telling us about their work as a mental health professional. And until then, Marianne, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you, too. You have been an amazing host.
Thank you,
I would totally recommend.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I'll see you around.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.